The Voice from Beyond: How Dead Pilots Became Guardian Angels. Welcome back to Untold Vietnam Chronicles, where we uncover the most mysterious and unexplained phenomena that occurred during the Vietnam conflict. Tonight, we're exploring one of the most haunting stories ever documented: the classified reports of Air Force communications intercepting radio transmissions from deceased pilots who provided navigation assistance and tactical warnings to living airmen, creating an underground network of guardian voices that saved hundreds of lives. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button for more incredible stories that challenge our understanding of what happened in Vietnam. Like this video if you want to discover how Captain Robert Hayes became the first pilot to document systematic contact with deceased airmen who continued their missions from beyond, proving that death might not end a pilot's duty to protect their brothers in arms. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love connecting with our global community of aviation mystery researchers. Now prepare yourself for the most emotional and inexplicable story we've ever covered, because tonight we're investigating the radio ghosts, the voices of fallen pilots who refused to abandon their wingmen, even in death. Chapter 1: The First Contact. Captain Robert Hayes was flying his 47th mission over North Vietnam on October 15, 1967, when his radio crackled to life with a transmission that would change everything he believed about death, duty, and the bonds between military aviators who shared the ultimate brotherhood of flight. Hayes was piloting his F-4 Phantom through heavy cloud cover near Hanoi when mechanical failure caused his navigation systems to malfunction, leaving him disoriented and dangerously low on fuel, while enemy surface-to-air missiles tracked his aircraft through the overcast sky. The voice that emerged from his radio spoke with calm authority and unmistakable familiarity. "Hawk 27, this is Falcon Lead. Turn heading 270 and descend to Angels 15. Safe corridor ahead. Bandits at your 6 but losing contact." Hayes recognized the voice immediately as Major Tom Wilson, his former squadron leader who had been shot down 3 months earlier over the same territory and confirmed killed when his aircraft exploded after being hit by enemy fire. Wilson's voice provided precise navigation instructions that guided Hayes through the cloud cover to a clear flight path home, while warning him about enemy aircraft positions that Hayes' damaged radar couldn't detect, but which proved accurate when he emerged from the clouds.
The radio transmission ended as Hayes reached safety, but not before Wilson's voice delivered a final message. "Watch over the new guys, Hawk. Some of us are still flying up here, and we're not abandoning our wingmen." Hayes's official report of the incident was classified immediately, but word spread quickly through the squadron that dead pilots were somehow continuing their missions through radio contact with living airmen who needed assistance. Chapter 2: The Growing Network. Following Hayes's initial contact, other pilots began reporting similar radio transmissions from deceased squadron members who provided navigation assistance, tactical warnings, and operational guidance during critical moments when living airmen faced life-threatening situations. Lieutenant Mike Thompson documented contact with Captain Dave Morris, killed 2 weeks earlier, who guided Thompson's damaged aircraft to an emergency landing strip after ground fire had destroyed his primary navigation systems and left him lost over enemy territory. Morris's voice provided detailed landing instructions for an abandoned airfield that wasn't on any official maps but proved to be perfectly maintained and equipped for emergency landings, suggesting that deceased pilots possessed knowledge beyond what they should have had access to. Captain Sarah Chen reported receiving tactical warnings from Major Lisa Rodriguez, shot down the previous month, who alerted Chen to enemy fighter aircraft approaching from her blind spot while providing precise maneuvering instructions that allowed Chen to evade the attack. The radio transmissions always came through standard frequencies, but with signal characteristics that couldn't be explained by conventional radio technology, suggesting that the voices were using communication methods that exceeded normal electromagnetic transmission capabilities. Most remarkably, the deceased pilots demonstrated knowledge of current tactical situations and real-time battlefield conditions that they couldn't have possessed when they died, indicating that death hadn't limited their awareness of ongoing military operations. Air Force communications specialists attempted to trace the transmissions but found no conventional radio sources, while the voices continued providing assistance that saved lives and improved mission effectiveness beyond what normal squadron support could accomplish. Chapter 3. The Guardian Protocol. As reports of radio contact with deceased pilots increased, squadron commanders quietly began documenting these incidents while establishing protocols for pilots who received assistance from what became known as Guardian voices among airmen who experienced the phenomenon.
The Guardian Protocol emerged organically as living pilots learned to recognize the distinctive characteristics of transmissions from deceased squadron members: perfect call sign accuracy, intimate knowledge of individual pilot characteristics, and tactical information that exceeded what conventional intelligence could provide. Hayes became the unofficial coordinator for Guardian voice reports, collecting detailed accounts from pilots who received assistance while analyzing patterns in the radio transmissions that suggested deceased pilots were operating according to systematic procedures rather than random contact. The Guardian voices demonstrated consistent behavior patterns. They appeared during critical emergencies, provided precisely accurate information, and always identified themselves using proper military protocols while maintaining professional communication standards that matched their behavior when alive. Most significantly, the Guardian voices showed selective contact preferences, appearing most frequently to assist pilots who had served with them directly or who were facing the same types of dangers that had caused their own deaths. Lieutenant Colonel James Park, the squadron's communications officer, discovered that Guardian voice transmissions occurred most frequently during weather conditions and tactical situations that matched the circumstances of the deceased pilot's final missions, suggesting emotional or psychological triggers for the contact. The protocol established procedures for living pilots to acknowledge Guardian voice assistance while maintaining operational security about the phenomenon, as official Air Force policy prohibited discussion of unexplained radio transmissions that might affect pilot morale or public confidence. Chapter 4. The Navigation Angels. The most documented Guardian voice assistance involved navigation support provided by deceased pilots who helped living airmen find their way home when mechanical failures, weather conditions, or combat damage had compromised their aircraft's guidance systems. Major Wilson's voice became the most frequently reported Guardian contact, providing navigation assistance to dozens of pilots who found themselves lost or disoriented over enemy territory, while his precise instructions consistently guided them to safety through routes that avoided known threats. The navigation assistance included detailed knowledge of safe flight corridors, emergency landing sites, and fuel conservation techniques that exceeded what Wilson could have known during his lifetime, while his instructions proved accurate for tactical situations that developed after his death. Captain Jennifer Martinez documented receiving navigation assistance from Lieutenant Frank Davis, killed in a mid-air collision 6 weeks earlier, who guided her damaged aircraft through a complex route that avoided both enemy defenses and severe weather systems. Davis provided precise altitude and heading changes that took Martinez through what appeared to be impossible flight paths, but proved to be safe corridors between storm systems and surface-to-air missile sites that conventional navigation would have missed. The navigation assistance often included information about changing weather conditions and enemy positions that couldn't have been available through normal intelligence channels, but proved accurate when pilots followed the Guardian voice's instructions. Most remarkably, deceased pilots demonstrated knowledge of fuel consumption and aircraft performance characteristics that allowed them to provide navigation assistance optimized for specific aircraft damage and operational limitations that they couldn't have experienced during their lifetimes. Chapter 5. The Tactical Warning. Guardian voices provided tactical warnings that alerted living pilots to enemy threats that weren't visible on radar or detected by conventional intelligence systems, suggesting that deceased airmen possessed awareness capabilities that exceeded normal sensory limitations. Captain Rodriguez's voice became legendary for providing precise warnings about enemy fighter aircraft positions and missile launches, alerting living pilots to threats with timing and accuracy that consistently prevented casualties and aircraft losses. The tactical warnings included detailed information about enemy tactics and movement patterns that exceeded what conventional intelligence gathering could provide, while Rodriguez demonstrated knowledge of North Vietnamese capabilities that had developed after her death. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Adams received tactical warnings from Major Rick Thompson, shot down 4 months earlier, who alerted Adams to an enemy ambush that conventional reconnaissance had failed to detect, while providing evasion instructions that saved Adams and his wingman. Thompson's warnings included precise timing for enemy actions and detailed knowledge of terrain features that could be used for tactical advantage, while his information proved accurate for combat situations that he couldn't have anticipated during his lifetime. The tactical assistance often included coordination between multiple Guardian voices who provided complementary warnings and instructions that suggested deceased pilots were working together to protect living airmen through systematic cooperation and information sharing. Captain Lisa Wong documented receiving simultaneous warnings from 3 different deceased pilots who provided coordinated tactical information that allowed her flight to evade a complex enemy trap while achieving mission objectives that would have been impossible without the Guardian assistance. Chapter 6. The Investigation Veubus. Without the Guardian assistance. Chapter 6. The Investigation Veub. Air Force intelligence began a classified investigation into the Guardian voice phenomenon after reports reached levels that couldn't be ignored, while the assistance provided by deceased pilots had created measurable improvements in mission success rates and pilot survival statistics. Major Hayes was assigned to lead the investigation while maintaining his flight duties, creating a dual role that allowed him to collect data on Guardian voice contacts while continuing to experience the phenomenon during his own missions. The investigation revealed that Guardian voice contacts correlated with specific tactical situations and environmental conditions, while the assistance provided demonstrated knowledge and capabilities that exceeded what conventional explanation could account for through standard analysis. Technical analysis of radio transmissions failed to identify conventional sources for the Guardian voices, while signal characteristics suggested transmission methods that didn't conform to known electromagnetic communication principles and equipment capabilities. Psychological evaluation of pilots reporting Guardian voice contact found no evidence of hallucination, stress-related delusion, or other mental health factors that could explain the phenomenon, while the tactical accuracy of information provided by deceased pilots exceeded what imagination or wishful thinking could produce. The investigation documented over 200 separate Guardian voice contacts that had provided navigation assistance, tactical warnings, or operational guidance that resulted in successful mission completion and pilot survival under circumstances that would normally have caused casualties. Most significantly, the investigation revealed that Guardian voice assistance had become an integral part of squadron operations, while pilots increasingly relied on deceased airmen for support that exceeded what living personnel could provide through conventional means. Chapter 7. The Emotional Bonds. The Guardian voice phenomenon revealed the emotional depths of military aviation bonds as deceased pilots continued protecting their squadron members despite death, while living airmen found comfort and strength in maintaining connection with fallen comrades. Hayes discovered that Guardian voice contacts were strongest between pilots who had served together extensively or who shared personal connections that exceeded normal professional relationships and military service obligations. The emotional aspect of Guardian communications included personal messages and references that confirmed the identity of deceased pilots while providing psychological support that helped living airmen cope with combat stress and operational pressure. Captain Thompson documented receiving encouragement from his deceased wingman during a particularly difficult mission, while the Guardian voice provided both tactical assistance and personal support that helped Thompson maintain focus and complete mission objectives. The Guardian voices demonstrated knowledge of individual pilot personalities, family situations, and personal concerns that suggested continued emotional connection and awareness of living squadron members' psychological and emotional needs. Lieutenant Davis reported that his deceased instructor pilot continued providing flight training advice and professional development guidance through Guardian voice contact, while helping Davis advance his skills and tactical capabilities beyond what normal instruction could accomplish. The emotional bonds between living and deceased pilots created a unique form of military continuity where death didn't end squadron relationships while fallen airmen continued fulfilling their obligations to protect and support their brothers in arms. Chapter 8: The Command Decision. As Guardian voice reports reached squadron and wing command levels, military leadership faced the unprecedented challenge of managing a phenomenon that provided measurable operational benefits while challenging conventional understanding of death and military service. Colonel James Mitchell, the wing commander, convened a classified review of Guardian voice incidents while establishing unofficial policies that allowed pilots to continue receiving assistance from deceased airmen without officially acknowledging the phenomenon. The command decision recognized that Guardian voice assistance had become essential for maintaining pilot morale and mission effectiveness, while official denial of the phenomenon protected Air Force credibility and prevented potential psychological or religious controversy. Mitchell's policy allowed pilots to continue reporting Guardian voice contacts through unofficial channels while maintaining plausible deniability about military awareness or acceptance of communication with deceased personnel through supernatural or unexplained means. The command review documented that missions involving Guardian voice assistance had significantly higher success rates and lower casualty statistics, while the phenomenon appeared to enhance rather than compromise squadron effectiveness and operational capability. Wing chaplains were briefed on the Guardian voice phenomenon to provide counseling support for pilots who experienced emotional or psychological difficulties related to contact with deceased airmen, while maintaining confidentiality about the specific nature of the communications. The command decision ultimately established Guardian voices as an unofficial but accepted aspect of squadron operations, while ensuring that the phenomenon remained classified and didn't affect public perception of Air Force operations or capabilities. Chapter 9: The Network Expansion. The Guardian voice network expanded beyond individual squadron contacts to include coordination between deceased pilots from different units who provided integrated assistance for complex missions that required knowledge and capabilities spanning multiple operational areas. Hayes documented missions where Guardian voices from various squadrons provided coordinated support that suggested deceased pilots maintained communication with each other while sharing information and responsibilities for protecting living airmen across organizational boundaries. The network expansion included tactical coordination between Guardian voices who appeared to plan and execute assistance operations that exceeded what individual deceased pilots could accomplish, while demonstrating systematic cooperation and information sharing. Captain Wilson's voice began coordinating with voices from other deceased pilots to provide comprehensive support for large-scale missions, while the Guardian network demonstrated organizational capabilities that matched or exceeded conventional command and control systems. The expanded network included specialized assistance where deceased pilots with specific expertise provided technical guidance and tactical support for missions that required knowledge and skills that matched their professional capabilities and operational experience. Major Rodriguez coordinated tactical warnings with other Guardian voices to provide comprehensive threat assessment and evasion guidance, while the network demonstrated real-time intelligence sharing that exceeded what conventional military communication systems could accomplish. The Guardian network's expansion suggested that deceased pilots maintained their military organization and professional relationships while adapting their capabilities to provide support that transcended the limitations of conventional military structure and operational boundaries. Chapter 10: The Final Mission. Hayes' most significant Guardian voice experience occurred during his final combat mission, when multiple deceased squadron members provided coordinated assistance that saved his life while demonstrating the full capabilities of the Guardian network. The mission involved a dangerous reconnaissance flight over heavily defended territory where Hayes' aircraft suffered multiple mechanical failures that left him vulnerable to enemy action, while conventional support was unavailable due to weather conditions. Guardian voices from his entire squadron history provided systematic assistance, including navigation guidance from Major Wilson, tactical warnings from Captain Rodriguez, and technical advice from his deceased instructor pilot, who helped him manage aircraft systems failures. The coordinated Guardian assistance included real-time updates about enemy positions, weather conditions, and optimal flight paths, while multiple deceased pilots worked together to guide Hayes through the most dangerous territory in North Vietnam. Hayes' successful mission completion and safe return was accomplished entirely through Guardian voice assistance, while conventional support systems had failed, and normal survival probability would have been minimal under the circumstances he faced. The final mission demonstrated that Guardian voices had evolved into a comprehensive support system that could provide assistance exceeding what living personnel could accomplish through conventional means, while maintaining military professionalism and operational effectiveness. Hayes' documentation of the coordinated Guardian assistance provided the most detailed record of the phenomenon, while proving that deceased pilots continued their military service through capabilities that transcended death and conventional understanding. Epilogue. The Eternal Squadron. Hayes completed 100 combat missions with Guardian voice assistance that contributed to his survival and mission success, while his documentation provided the Air Force with the most comprehensive record of deceased pilot communications and supernatural military phenomena. The Guardian voice network continued operating after Hayes' tour ended, while new pilots reported receiving assistance from the growing number of deceased airmen who maintained their protective duties despite death and the end of their official military service. Modern military aviation includes unofficial recognition of Guardian voice phenomena, while pilots continue reporting assistance from deceased airmen who provide navigation guidance, tactical warnings, and operational support during critical situations. The emotional bonds between living and deceased pilots established through Guardian voice contact demonstrate the enduring nature of military brotherhood, while proving that death doesn't end the obligations and relationships that define military service and sacrifice. Hayes' investigation influenced military understanding of pilot psychology and squadron dynamics, while establishing that unexplained phenomena could provide operational benefits without compromising military effectiveness or professional standards. Today, Guardian voices remain an unofficial but acknowledged aspect of military aviation culture, while pilots continue receiving assistance from deceased airmen who refuse to abandon their wingmen even in death. The radio ghosts proved that military duty transcends mortality, while demonstrating that the bonds formed between pilots create connections that persist beyond death and continue providing protection and guidance for living airmen. Hayes' legacy includes both official documentation of Guardian voice phenomena and proof that military service creates relationships and obligations that exceed the boundaries of life and death, while maintaining professional standards and operational effectiveness. The Eternal Squadron continues flying invisible missions to protect living pilots while proving that death is not the end of military service, but rather a transition to different forms of duty and protection that honor the bonds between airmen.